Thank you very much, David, for organizing this virtual interaction with such eminent personalities. Mr. Kher, Andas Gupta, Dr. Harshvardhan Singh, Dr. Veena Singh, Mr. Vishwanath, all of them have put in a lot of hard work, put in a lot of, if I may say, labor of love into trying to assess the realistic position about India's exports, how we can truly engage more with the world, expand our global footprint. And when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think all of us are very clear that we are not looking at closing India's doors. We are actually looking at expanding our engagement. I was reading Jamshed Forbes in the papers today, speaking about how FTAs are not necessarily bad. They seem bad to us because we have not been able to cash in on those FTAs. We've not really developed domestic capabilities, quality standards, economies of scale. And of course, I must grant that in some instances, countries have also put non-tariff barriers. So it's a mix of both. But clearly, if I may take a little pun on the entire discussion that I saw so far, hindsight is always better than while you're in the job. So after you retire, David, you will give me a lot of gyan about how Exim Bank should be run. Similarly, I hope all those officers of the Commerce Ministry and Industry Ministry who are today listening to this call, please do something about it while you're in the job. Don't wait to retire and then tell us how the job should have been done. And I hope all my colleagues from the ministry who are on the call will take the spirit of the recommendations with positivity, because I find many of the recommendations are doable. The concluding part of your study talks about how a lot of things are happening, but implementation is very poor. And end of the day, while we are in the job, we have to implement. I do hope the report that has come out today will help us to mitigate the bottlenecks, the problems that many of our foreign trade participants are facing, and such free flow of ideas. I've engaged with this team earlier on a couple of occasions on their ideas about the Australia-India trade, on occasions when we've discussed what more policy measures can be taken to further India's competitiveness when we are dealing with the world. I think it's time that we actually start showing that action on the ground rather than just deliberating on ideas, deliberating on suggestions. As the Prime Minister said, the world today is looking for a trusted, reliable partner. In India, we have that potential. We have the ability, we have the strength to be able to provide a true partnership which can help resilient supply chains become kind of more foolproof. Also have significant engagement with countries which share values of democracy, share values of transparent economic activity with India. So a lot can be done. Atmanirbhar Bharat effectively is all about building Indian capabilities, quality, scale, good manufacturing practices, bringing best of technologies, improving the standards that Indians expect in India. And if you don't make good automobiles for the Indian market, you can never export automobiles. If we get used to cloth which is not of high quality for the Indian market, we'll make mistakes in our export consignments also. And therefore, as Charles Darwin had said, in the long history of humankind, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have always prevailed. Those who remain wedded to the past can never really evolve, can never really grow. Our pharma industry is one industry which has done us proud. I was just now hearing about suggestions related to the mobile industry, the electronic component industry. Now, potential in India would be there in several sectors. And I believe you have also tried to identify some of these sectors. My own approach to this is that set the sector right. Don't worry that it's for export or the domestic market. Once you set the sector right, logically you will become export ready also. If we remain wedded to this is a domestic industry, this is an export industry, things are never going to find resolution or solutions. And I have the confidence that in more sectors than at present, India has the capability to expand its engagement. India has the capability to become a global player of significance. We really can't set on the laurels of such low capacities that we are currently producing in India. We really have to look at much, much more deeper engagement with technology, with newer ways of working, with high quality standards that the West has adopted. And I have the confidence that going forward, all of these will collectively help India and Indian industry become a grand success. Too much noise. In some of the suggestions that were made, I think we could have been more practical. For example, suggestions relating to GST should be reduced. That's not the job of this team or the subject matter of our engagement to make India a global exports hub. How does GST have any significance with our becoming a global export hub? We don't need to become lobbyists for those sectors. Our job is to see what that sector needs in terms of greater competitiveness. But as long as the level playing field is there for everybody, I don't think that's going to impact our export competitiveness. It's very easy to say reduce taxes on everything. We'll have to start with reducing the salaries of all the civil servants of India. The ministers have taken a 30% salary cut, not the civil servants. So I know on a lighter note, I'm saying that. It's very nice and easy to give these kind of comments that reduce GST, reduce this charge, reduce that tax, give more export incentive. I wish some more suggestions would have also come in of where the revenue is going to come for that. Give us the source of revenue and tell us where it can be expended. You are running your Exim Bank. Why don't you reduce the interest rates on everything? A lot of our exports will become competitive. Cut down all your flat, borrow cheaper if you can. Improvise your cash management or your ALM. So these are things which is very easy from the outside to sermonize. I wish in the same report, if a second version and a briefer version can come out, which tells us actionable agenda items, doable largely by the Commerce and Industry Ministry, where we are not running around the whole world trying to get 37 states and union territories on board to discuss about GST reduction. You talked about all imports should be available duty-free for exports. But I thought that's what all of you have done all your life. You've ensured that there are mechanisms for duty-free imports. What I would like you to say is, or find out and give us a way, that our small exporters cannot import. In any case, small quantities cannot be imported. We have a drawback system for that. Can we make that more robust? How do we address the problems and challenges that is faced there? I appreciate the point made that GST refund should be made immediately. that can add 1 to 3%, as your report says, to the cost of our exports. Fair comment. Fully appreciate and endorse that. Can you also apply your mind, given the vast experience that is on the table today, how we will also ensure that fraud is not coming, particularly considering the large number of exporters or people with IEC codes who have recently been found indulging in fraud? And I hope all the illustrious colleagues and all the very, very senior persons who have been involved in this study will take this in the right spirit. I know I have a lot of shortcomings. I know I want to do a lot of things for the better of our export trade. Our exports are stagnating. 10 years they haven't grown at all. We are where we were 10 years ago. And if we look at how the world has grown in 10 years, we are actually down 30%. So I would really be appreciative or expect how you will tell us the practical ways to engage with latest technology, what kind of testing and testing standards are required, where quality standards need to be further improved in India. And I'm again repeating, in India, exports will automatically happen if our domestic standard is good. Furniture, we believe this is an item where we have huge potential worldwide, but not if our furniture is not made of world class and at scale so that it's competitively priced. I'm told some countries have whole cities and industrial areas where people do only furniture. And a large factory may be doing only tabletops, another may be doing chair legs, third may be doing table lamps, fourth may be doing upholstery, and a fifth may be putting it all together. A lot of things may be exported in knockdown condition, a do-it-yourself type of kit in furniture. Now, we have today the industry ministry, which has set up a team, a steering committee headed by Pawan Goenka, working to identify this. Your committee is identifying certain things. You already have some champion sectors and champion or focus thrust areas. I think it's time, if this committee really can help me do that, to bring all of these on one page. Bring the least common denominator. Eliminate where, if you take up a certain product, you take up pens for instance. Maybe after a whole study of 3 months, 6 months, you may find no, better to import this pen. You don't have a competitive advantage in making this pen. You may very often jolly well find that medical devices or CT scan machines. Let us continue to import. Doesn't make sense. We need only, say, 300 a year. Let's continue to import. In lieu of that, in India, we need kneecaps, knee implants, heart stents, very large number, 1.3 billion people. Let's create scale, quality in that, become the world's preferred supplier for that product. That truly is global engagement. That is Atmanirbhar Bharat. जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत की आत्मा है वो यही है. As Michael Porter said, identify where you have a comparative strength compared to the other nations. Identify, focus, and then be nothing but the best in that area. Don't settle for second best at all. I can tell you all the things that we have done, but clearly they are not adequate. We need to do much more. So I have a whole set of points before me which say, we've done this is good about India, this is great, our approach is fantastic, but something somewhere is not right. But I think a dialogue like this, which is constructive, collaborative, which is really for the betterment of the nation as a whole, and in that there is complete alignment of thought between Rajiv ji, Harshvardhan ji, Vishwanath ji, Jayant Dada, Madam Jha. I think there can be nobody on this call who's not aligned on the ultimate objective. Why can we not aim for $1 trillion of exports from India? We certainly can. I see no reason we cannot. For that, we need to be clear on actionable items. Subsidies are never going to get us there. I'm very, very clear about it. At least in my 6 years of engagement, I have not found subsidies to be the solution to India's problems. I think it's quality, it's technology, it's growth, it's scale, and sometimes for a short period you may need to give a little thrust or support. But if we are looking at literally running our long-term engagement with the world on subsidy, not going to work. We'll have to identify areas where sensible policies can help us get there. We'll have to, as the Prime Minister said on 15th August, look at areas where we need to value add, where we can go beyond exporting the raw material, like iron ore. India had 100 million tons of steel, China had 800 million tons of steel. And then, even then, we are, I think, second largest manufacturer. Look at the gap. And we are exporting iron ore to China. I'm told China has iron ore, but they are conserving it. Can we think of some smart options, what we need to do? On FTAs, I heard the last speaker before I came in talk about FTAs with Chile and some African countries and all of that. Can your team come out with a bold idea? What an FTA with US or Europe or UK would be like? Because we need large markets also. We need to penetrate the developed world where we can leverage on our lower labor costs or our skills. When we are going to try and export to Africa and Chile, we will be competing with people who are already very low cost and very low quality. You want to relegate the nation to that level? I don't think so. Let me throw a absolutely top of the head, ridiculous, stupid idea, if I may. Say, maybe agriculture could be kept out of such an engagement. But suppose the US and India, and US is a large consuming market. Population is also decently large at 400 million. Economy is about 7 times plus ours. So largely consumption based. Open market. But not too much competitiveness on their manufacturing. Their strength is innovation, technology, R&D. That's their strength. Suppose I was to say that leave aside agriculture. Because there they have sensitivities, we have sensitivities. They'll never allow peanut butter to come in. We'll not allow milk or dairy to come in. Leave aside some animal husbandry or agriculture. And we say everything else is zero duty both ways. Just out of the box. Can you do a study, a deep down analysis? Can this team work on that? And come up with a possible scenario, what it could mean. What it would mean for our textile sector. What it would mean for our gem and jewelry sector, pharma sector, services sector. But what are the sacrifices it would entail? And we'll import coal from there. Why do we import coal from Indonesia and Australia? We'll import it from US. It's pretty good quality, by the way. We'll import natural gas from the US. We'll import high quality medical equipment from the US. We'll import oil from the US. And many more items. No problem. But what is the potential import? What are the threats to domestic industry emerging out of that? But what are the opportunities that will open up to the US? In that, we'll have to take care again of quality, in India and non-tariff barriers through quality standards in the US. So that will have to be a detailed engagement with them, the CROs or whatever else. But something more out of the box is called. Otherwise, David, these are things that I hear day in and day out. If we're going to be revolving around MEIS and ROSCTL and all of these small stuff, I think I've conveyed what I'm trying to convey. Think little more out of the box. Take the experience of your 40 years and cumulative experience of this team of maybe few hundred years in different areas, external affairs, commerce, industry, and all the officers I'm sure would have worked in many areas. WTO, Dr. Gupta, Veena in UNCTAD. I mean, you have a wealth of experience, a wealth of exposure. We need something coming out which is much more out of the box as a second version. Of course, you're releasing today's report, but the second version should be like cutting edge, crisp, outcome oriented, less sermonizing, more action oriented. And for the actions, recollecting your constraints when you were in government and factoring that in while presenting your recommendation. That, okay, this has to be given as a subsidy or PLI or whatever. This will be the source from where that money will be. Start from a zero-based budget. Exim Bank, bankers should lend lower cost. These are the actionable items, how they will lend lower. And ultimately trying to move towards non-government interference in your business. To my mind, that's the only sustainable and resilient way to prepare India to engage with the world and look for transformational growth. Incidentally, when we did the LED bulbs program, the first decision on file, was to stop the 100 rupees subsidy that was being paid on an LED bulb, 100 rupees. And my target was that the LED bulb should cost 99 rupees. Double digit, I used to say. It used to become a joke. Most people didn't believe it will happen. Finally, we used to buy those bulbs at 38 rupees. Not from any Era-Gera company, from Philips. No low quality bulb. Better quality than what government was buying earlier. Companies like Philips and Havells and Surya. Instead of 8 watts, 12 watt bulb. Largely assembled in India. Some 3-4 rupees of import because we don't have chip manufacturing, a fab. 38 rupees. What did the trick? Scale. What did the trick? Timely payment, like you have also rightly said, GST. What did the trick? Marketing through the country, throughout the country, leveraging on existing outlets. What are the outlets? The DISCOMs, the utility offices, the bill collecting centers, the common service centers of MeitY. Zero overhead. And who did it? A small team of 40 people working in ESL. Target 770 million bulbs in 4 years, 4.5 years. Achievement 1.4 billion bulbs in less than 4 years. All of it is possible. India and Indians have the capability. Starting point, remove that 100 rupees subsidy. Still that is there. Your limiting factor is how much subsidy is available in the year, and you'll not go beyond 600,000 bulbs in a year. The subsidy you get is only 6 crore rupees. And I think all my esteemed colleagues on this call know about these constraints in government budgets, budget cuts, blah, blah, blah. Let's work around our experience. to find solutions which are more, I would say, open market oriented, more focused on non-fiscal ways of encouraging industry and business to expand and grow both domestically and internationally. I again repeat, you cannot segregate. You cannot say my auto industry is largely export focused and domestic is not so good. No, the automobile culture, the mindset has to be of high quality. Whether domestic or export, the person working has no clue. He should be made capable and skilled to make a high quality product, irrespective it goes abroad or India. Good manufacturing practices are not segregated for foreign and Indian markets. We need radical change, and no better time than an adversity like COVID. We are willing to bite the bullet. Look at the agricultural reforms, labor reforms, mining reforms, defense reforms, banking reforms, capital market reforms. We are willing to go that extra mile. Prime Minister Modi is willing to expend political capital for the good of the country for both the midterm and the long term. We welcome ideas, welcome action-oriented suggestions, doable, practical, nose-on-the-ground ideas which can transform the Indian global engagement. I hope nobody will misunderstand any of what I've said, but we'll take it in the right spirit because all of us are together in this. We are all equal stakeholders. Your stake is as much as mine, as much as David's, as much as our children and our people living across the length and breadth of it. Let's go for it. Let's make one more effort, working together in this spirit of success and not sermon. Thank you.